When will hip-hop finally put some respect on Will Smith's name? Hey, yeah. Let me start off by saying that, oh my god, do I really start off every video like this? This is not going to be a video about Will Smith's rap career or his musical content, but rather the perception around it and the attitude towards it. So for as long as I can remember, anytime I would reveal that Will Smith is in my top 5 favorite rappers of all time, keyword being favorite, it elicits laughter, scoffs, and sheer confusion. Hell, I even remember one time someone said that they couldn't take my opinions of hip-hop seriously because Will Smith is in my top 5 favorite rappers of all time. Me, of all people. Now, I'm well aware that there are people watching this video with the exact same reactions, fixing their fingers to type something about Will Smith that has nothing to do with his rap career, or if it does, it's something along the lines of, Will Smith is not hip-hop because of these 3 talking points. 1, he doesn't even curse in his raps. 2, he makes family-friendly music. And 3, he's just all around corny. Now, as I take the ball between my legs and dunk on this narrative that's been surrounding Will Smith's rap career for decades, I just want to make this general statement. Hip-hop, like any other culture, like any other community, like our entire human existence actually, is non-monolithic. There is not one way to do hip-hop. There is not one way to be hip-hop. So when people use these qualifiers to somehow disqualify Will Smith from the conversation, it makes me laugh, because if you really wanted to, you could do the same thing with a lot of the things that we hold in hip-hop culture as a high standard. For example, using the point that he doesn't curse against him, but let's apply that to other rappers, shall we? Like Rakim, the God MC, who may have cussed once or twice in a song or two, still, early on in his career, made a conscious effort not to cuss.
Is that conscious to not curse on record?
Yeah, in the beginning.
What about this one? Method Man.
For like 10 years now, I haven't cursed on a record. That was by choice. Once I did it, and it still sounded hard, I was like, let me see if I can continue doing this.
Now, for me personally, as someone who used to rap, I used to write rhymes that didn't have cusses in them because I felt very similarly to Method Man. I wanted to find different or equally as powerful words to use in place of the cuss words. To me, that's impressive. It speaks to a certain skill level to be able to write 16, 32, 68 plus bars of no cussing.
Will Smith don't got a cuss in his raps to sell records.
Tell me what that says about Will Smith if dope MCs like Rakim and Method Man can do the same thing. But also, think about this for a minute. Back in the 90s, because hip-hop was under heavy scrutiny by the media and by politicians, it became an industry standard for rappers to record 2 versions of songs. One for radio and TV, and one for the album.
Straight out of Compton, it's a crazy brother named Ice Cube, from the stupid dope gang with an attitude.
First off, touch your chick and the click you claim. West side, when we rock, come equipped with game.
Standing on the corner, straight slanging rocks. Oh man, here comes a crooked ass cop.
Follow me, but you bet not slip, cause 9 tris ain't the years there for me to cleanse out my grip.
Which means that if you never listened to the album, and if you only listened to what was on the radio or television, then you also would have thought that Tupac and Bone Thugs and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube and Ice-T and all of them also didn't cuss. But whether or not they cuss in their lyrics is irrelevant. It's actually the subject matter of their content, right? Because the Tupacs and the Biggies and the Snoop Doggs of hip-hop were talking about real deal situations that we as young black men in the community can relate to. Not that family-friendly that Will Smith was kicking. Which brings me to that one talking point that everybody has when it comes to Will Smith. That one talking point that I think only stuck because of that one Family Guy gag.
Help out your mom and dad by getting a job so you can help pay for school supplies.
And if you base your opinions on Family Guy gags, I don't know what to tell you. So Will Smith had songs like Parents Just Don't Understand, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble, Nightmare on My Street, I Think I Could Beat Mike Tyson, Getting Jiggy With It, Miami, Men in Black, Wild Wild West, and people deem those to be corny or less hip-hop because they're family friendly and clean. So the what? Like I said earlier, hip-hop is not a monolith. It's crazy to me because the same people who bash and criticize Will Smith for making fun, family-friendly music are the same people who in the same breath will complain about hip-hop sounding the same nowadays. So let me get this straight. You complain about hip-hop's lack of versatility, yet you deem Will Smith to be not hip-hop, despite the fact that he represented hip-hop at its most multifaceted. Make it make sense. The Will Smiths, the Kid 'n Plays, the Fat Boys, the Heavy D's, and yes, the MC Hammers of hip-hop are just as important to the culture as the NWAs, the Public Enemies, the Ice-T's, the Wu-Tangs, the Slick Ricks, the 2 Live Crews. And I don't care what none of y'all say, I can relate to some of the stuff that Will Smith is rapping about. And to some extent, you can too. I mean, we all know what it's like to go shopping with our parents and they want to buy us an outfit that we know we're going to get ranked on at school for. before, or the night we watched a horror movie we actually had a vivid nightmare about it. I can relate to Will Smith just as much as I can relate to Tupac. Hip-hop is not a monolith. I mean, isn't one of the reasons why we love Outkast so much is because they represent an alternative side of our culture? Because of their authenticity and their willingness to be themselves in their music. That's Will Smith too. And let's be all the way for real quick. Put some of Will Smith's songs in perspective. Because you mean to tell me that this isn't considered hip-hop? But somehow this is?
Find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel a buzz.
You mean to tell me that this isn't considered hip-hop?
Listen, homeboys, don't mean to bust your bubble, but girls of the world ain't nothing but trouble.
But somehow this is?
Friends is a word we use every day. Most of the time we use it in the wrong way.
What makes this less hip-hop
Everybody looking at me, glancing a kid. Wishing they was dancing a jig here with this handsome kid.
than this?
My waist bone's connected to my hip bone. My hip bone's connected to my thigh bone. My thigh bone's connected to my knee bone. My knee bone's connected to my party.
Nah, cause seriously, what the was DOS Effects talking about here? And no, I'm not saying that those songs are not hip-hop. I'm just trying to make a point here. Hip-hop is not a monolith. The fact of the matter is this. Being hip-hop wasn't something Will Smith tried to be, it's what he was. He was running the same race and jumping the same hurdles as every other rapper, so why does the culture trip him up? You see what I did there? W for you if you got the reference. A lot of the times when people talk about Will Smith and him not measuring up to a certain standard of hip-hop, I tend to ask them this question. Have you heard any of his other songs outside the one or two popular ones that you know? And 9 times out of 10, their answer is no, and that's a shame because if they really listen to his albums, He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, Code Red, Home Base, Rock the House, Big Willie Style, Millennium, then they would see that Will Smith is exactly what the culture needed to show that hip-hop was multi-dimensional and multifaceted. If you listen to Will Smith's music, then you would see that he's a dope lyricist. You would see that he's a dope storyteller. You would see that he has songs that you could relate to. Hell, I know for a fact that when I have a child, just the two of us is gonna hit me a whole lot differently. And yes, you would even see that he cursed the 1-2 times in his songs.
You saw my blinker, bitch.
But there continues to be this narrative around Will Smith as a rapper because no one wants to dig into his catalog, because no one wants to put his career and his music in perspective, and because of this long-standing rumor that his biggest hit was ghostwritten by Rakim, which, by the way, Rakim said wasn't true. And because of this narrative, Will Smith isn't given the respect that he deserves for being hip-hop's first Grammy, for helping to push the culture forward, and for being a prime example of how far hip-hop can take you, from brand new funk to Mr. Box Office. Over on my BET Awards review, I mentioned that there was a segment that paid tribute to the dance hits in hip-hop, and how much I loved it because it showed hip-hop finally embracing a part of the culture that had been ostracized. I remember when Soulja Boy first came out and everybody attributed the death of hip-hop to him. Now, over a decade later, we're celebrating him as a hip-hop icon. As time goes by, when will hip-hop finally and collectively embrace Will Smith and give him his flowers for being an icon in our culture the same way we did for Kid and Play and Soulja Boy? When will Will Smith's place in hip-hop be celebrated not just by me,